Hi there, this is Donna Kozik. I'm the founder of MyBigBusinessCard.com and creator and leader of the original Write a Book in a Weekend program. And today I'm talking about Give Me 200 Words. I sent out a writing prompt to some members of my audience, and one lucky participant is going to have her entry reviewed and her draft entry. I'm going to give her a little bit of feedback, but also talk about what's so good about the one that she submitted. And I'm going to give you some tips about posting or doing what I call micro publishing on social media and using the Kindle platform. And then I'm going to end with next week's prompt. Also give you a little information about a mastermind that I have and another project that we have coming up for the community book project. So welcome, really glad to have you here. And I'm going to start off with my piece. So my favorite writing professor in college, his name was Dr. William Donnelly. When my favorite class there was advanced writing, and he would give us prompts like this, and then we would write and turn it in. And then the next class, he would share some of the entries, say some of the students and what they submitted, and talk about what's good and what could be polished up a little bit, similar to what we're going to be doing here. And I'm not going to promise to do this every time, but Dr. Donnelly would actually do the assignment every time as a way to keep his writing muscles limber. So I didn't work with this prompt, but instead I'm sharing one with you that I did for Father's Day. I did include this in an email that went out, so you might have seen this before. I'm going to give you a little bit behind the scenes and some of my thought process of what I was putting this together. So I'm not going to read the whole piece here, for instance, because I want to make sure we stick to a good time here, and I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but also I might start to cry when I reviewed this. And in fact, I was crying as I was writing it, and then I sent it out, and then my sister, she texts me, she's like, "Oh my God, I'm bawling." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know," and I start to tear up and stuff too, but we got to be okay with emotion, and in fact, it could be a sign that it's a good piece of writing if we do start to tear up or cry a little bit. I think writing something like this can also be healing for us. So I just wanted to point out a couple of things that I included here that you can use in your own writing. And what I did here, I was talking about how my dad taught me to drive. And I said, as we traveled the dirt roads around our farm and Union City for miles before getting on busy Route 6, I think of that when doing quick merges onto the 5 freeway from downtown San Diego now. So what I was doing here is because I knew I was going to be posting this on Facebook, I want to make a connection to my hometown friends in Union City, Pennsylvania, and then also connection to where I am now. So with driving, it worked out really well. And talking about, the dirt roads that I grew up on and around our farm, I could have put Pennsylvania in here. That might have been helpful. And then Route 6, I got a couple of comments because Route 6 is not busy by any stretch of the imagination, but for someone who's learning how to drive, it would be. Another thing that I did, so this is it was a little bit of a complicated story because I have a lot of things at work here with relationships, and I wanted to build the tension with my grandmother refusing to go to the hospital and how my dad got her to go to the hospital, and then to throw everything else in Polish, we call our grandmother's Busha. In my family, we called her Bushi. And and this is the way we spelt it, B-U-S-H-I-E, but when you see that, you think bushy, like trees and branches and all that. And I wanted to make sure that people at least knew that we pronounced it Bushi. So I wanted to do this before I got into the tension where I was talking about Bushi and the conversation she had with my father. So I put the pronunciation of it up here. And just like I wanted to get it out of the way before I got into the meat of the story. Another part here is what I'm leading up to is that my dad is one who convinced Bushi to go to the hospital. But I had to show that other people were concerned and stuff as well. and I want to do it in like a short and sweet way. So I have these kind of staccato sentences. My grandfather wanted to take her to the hospital. No way. Mom begged her on the phone. Nope. Like I could have put mom begged her to go to the doctor on the phone, but I wanted to keep this short and sweet. And then also I didn't want to use up too many ways to say, go to the hospital, go to the doctor, go to the emergency room, because I had to, again, leave the power from when my dad asked her down here at the end. Dad then kneeled down next to her chair, studied her wrist up close and said, Bushi, can I take you to the doctor? Yes, Walter, she replied, and off they went. So this is like the punchline. And I knew this part, and then I had to build the beginning and then build the end. So then that was the scene I set up, and then here I have the exposition about it and talking about my dad, talking then about how I, excuse me, this is what I learned from him, and tying in his calmness with what I do now. And I did that, okay, talking about sharing their message and how I keep people calm, I guess, and when they're on the phone, because people see, like my clients do, they get panicky about their writing and they get really worried about it. And I'm like, hey, listen, this is what you got going on, and everything is looking good. You might want to polish this up a little bit. So I guess kind of like my dad at that point. And then you want to have, of course, a really strong ending. The most important part in writing, strong beginnings, strong endings. So I put Happy Father's Day to the dads out there, and then to throw a bone to people who might not have fathers or mothers who didn't have a companion. I wrote moms who have had to take on that role because I wanted to make sure I wasn't dissing anyone. And then I ended with, I'll be remembering my dad, Walter M. Kozik. So I have, like I mentioned his first name up here, but then here at the end, it's like, it's really like an homage. And it's like, this is in dedication to him. So it's a way actually of doing the dedication at the end of the piece. All right, so that's a little bit behind the scenes of my thought process when I'm writing a piece. And next, our submission of the week. So the prompt was, what is an item that holds an intense amount of sentimental value? Who gave it to you? What memories does it have attached to it? And I got a number of submissions. This was a real short week for doing this. And the one I want to highlight came from Wispy Chris. And Wispy Chris, I said, even though the program here is called Give Me 200 Words, I said, listen, I'm not going to hold you to that right now, especially when you're doing a first draft. So I'm calling it, 200 words-ish. And let me actually read this piece, and then I'll go back and give some ideas here of what I'm thinking about it. So she starts with this quote from Talitha, says, if you love someone unconditionally and with your whole heart, then you will do what is best for them, not you. Then she writes, I have an item that holds immense sentimental value to me. It is perhaps a bit unconventional. It is a small piece of paper measuring approximately 5 inches in height and 7 in width, but its dimensions are not the key to its importance. What is the key then? The key is in its representation. It represents what might have been. It represents a wistful longing. It represents the result of choices made by a brain not yet fully formed and a heart influenced by the romantic fantasies of a young woman. It represents a depth of love I never knew I had available inside me. This piece of paper contains on its facing surface a set of 2 tiny handprints and 2 tiny footprints. It contains a name only possessed for a few short days before being changed by the excited couple who received the honor of holding the tiny hands and tickling the tiny feet of the beautiful baby girl I gave to them. I have held this piece of paper, this proof of life, with reverence for over 31 years. It has unrivaled power over me to bring to the surface a swirling mass of conflicting emotions every time I hold it and gaze upon it. Maybe someday she'll change her mind and want to meet a stranger who loves her with unwavering depth. Until then, I will have to settle for a piece of paper. Okay, so as you can tell, this is a moving piece, and I want to point out some things here that Wispy Chris did really well. This is a first draft, so I'm also going to give some hints and some polished things. But first I want to focus on what I really like about this. This sentence right here is really good. The whole piece, what I like about it is that it's like drawing you in and you're not sure what is it about this piece of paper. In fact, it's probably like 2/3 of the way in before we actually find out what makes this piece of paper so important to her. And she says, it represents the result of choices made by a brain not yet fully formed, so we know someone young, and a heart influenced by the romantic fantasies of a young woman. I love that because it's talking about both the mind, the brain, and the heart. So it's really nice how she brings that together. And then goes on and says it represents a depth of love I never knew I had available inside of me, which is good. And then we have down here the reveal. It contains a name only possessed for a few short days. So like the reader's mind is starting to work. It's like, oh, before being changed by an excited couple who received the honor of holding the tiny hands and tickling the tiny feet. Okay, so now we know fully what this is, and it's a throwback, even just a sentence above, to 2 tiny handprints and 2 tiny footprints. So she has a piece of paper that has these on here, like 2-dimensional, right? But this couple has the honor of actually holding the tiny hands and tickling the tiny feet. That holding and that tickling is such beautiful verbs to use here. And then the juxtaposition of, again, what's on the handprints and the footprints, and what's on the what's really happening in her mind, but another couple is doing, is just beautiful, beautiful writing. Then let's see, is proof of, I like this proof of life. I love that line because we hear proof of life, that phrase used other places and political places and things, and here for her, what it means, proof of life, this piece of paper, that's a really nice line here too. And then she has her ending here, I'll have to settle for a piece of paper. I might come back to this word settle. So this is, again, this piece just blew me away. A couple of suggestions for Wispy Chris is, and for everybody in writing, that's why I'm doing this. So this, watch your words that are littling or making smaller your ideas. We do that as kind of a form of protection. I could probably get into a whole psychological conversation of this, but we use maybe words, possibly, perhaps, and then a bit. Okay, so you could just say it is unconventional, and that would be much stronger than it is perhaps a bit unconventional. It is unconventional, and what this is all going to do is tighten the piece up, which gets you closer to that 200 words that ideally I am looking for. Then, yeah, again, I love this sentence. This piece of paper contains on its facing surface. I thought that was kind of a little bit of an odd phrase to have. Let me see. Well, you could put something like, I'm just playing around here. This featured on this piece of paper are 2 black and white, 2 tiny handprints, don't say black and white, are 2 tiny handprints and 2 tiny footprints. Maybe just on this piece of paper are 2 tiny handprints and 2 tiny footprints. I think that would do it. I don't think you need this contains on its facing surface. Then, and then here, so here's the thing. This sentence again, I love it. However, adjectives generally take away from the power. When we try to force the reader to see our description of something by using a word like beautiful, what it actually does is it weakens things a little bit, because you want the reader to be able to determine that for themselves. Because looking at a newborn, a baby girl, or this proof of life, right? This baby girl, it is beautiful. So that's kind of almost a given in a way. And what it does is just kind of a little extra work and an extra word you don't need. So tickling the tiny feet of the baby girl I gave them. I think that then even makes it more powerful if you don't put the adjective beautiful there. Yeah, this proof of life. Again, I just love this. And then we have a little kicker here at the end that Whiskey Chris is maybe try to reach out and try to touch base with this baby girl, this beautiful baby girl, and evidently has gotten rebuffed in some way. So maybe someday she will change her mind and want to meet a stranger who loves her with unwavering depth. Until then, I will have to settle for a piece of paper. I think here, I think it's just a quick fix is what I would do. A stranger who loves her. Let's see. And I'm okay with the maybe here, just so you know, because again, this is kind of a kicker. It's used in a different way here. It's not wishy-washy. So maybe someday she will change her mind and want to meet a stranger who loves her. You know what's a really powerful word is the word this. Maybe someday she will change her mind and want to meet this stranger who loves her. Until then, I will have to settle for a piece of paper. Oh my gosh, great ending. I wouldn't change that last sentence at all. All right, so great job, Wispy Chris. This is fabulous. I can see where your next draft is really going to just knock it out of the park. Good job. Okay, all right, and I'm going to wrap up here. I'm keep glancing at my time. So tips and techniques. I promised you some tips and techniques for writing and things like that. Here's one that just this realization that dawned on me is that your Facebook page is actually like a blog, and you should treat it like a blog. It's better than a blog because everybody's on Facebook. You don't have to drive an audience to click to read your blog posts. Also, there's images, videos, likes, comments. I mean, it really is the whole package. And your audience is right there, so you don't have to worry about like driving traffic or anything like that. So I encourage you to treat your Facebook page like a blog. We could get in a whole discussion about difference between personal pages and business pages and all of that. I'm just to cut to the chase. I'm of the thinking of like I'm all one, No, the three-dimensional Donna is out there on my Facebook page. Anybody can follow me. I make most of my posts public, and I'm okay with that. That said, I don't put a lot of political stuff on my Facebook page. I leave that for Twitter. So a little checklist too, if you're going to do something like I did for Father's Day. So first of all, kind of apply some of the techniques from above that I've been sharing with you in writing your posts. Also, I sometimes have a bad habit of I actually write on Facebook. That is not a good habit. Write in notes or in Word and then copy and paste it into Facebook so you can save your work, and I'll talk about that more in a moment, and proofread your work. The nice thing about Facebook is that you can go in and edit things, and like I saw a missing word in mine, so I was able to go in and edit it as well. Also, a little thing I did too was I wrote the story about my dad was actually the first comment. The question I posed was, what is one lesson your dad taught you? Mine in comments, I put that as the post. And then I made sure to get a comment in there right away, so I would be the first one. And then I went back and added the whole story. So that's something good to do too. Then also other places to post. LinkedIn has articles. I don't know if a post like I did about my father would be a good one for LinkedIn, but it might. Again, I'm kind of at the ilk where I'm just try it and see. It's like, it's not going to be something where I'm going to like break the rules or something like that and get kicked off of LinkedIn. If you do have a blog, of course, it'd be a place to post on your blog as well. But the reason I want you to keep these in a notes or Word document or Evernote or something like that is because 3,000 words makes a book. It makes a Kindle book. That's the minimum for a Kindle book in my world. So just think, 250 words, you do that 10 times, right? 10, 15 times, and you have yourself a little personal or a little Kindle book. And that's something, if that's your goal, you want to keep in mind. because you can keep them all along the same theme for your Kindle book. By the way, I have an ebook in a weekend coming up. If you're interested in that, in fact, if you have any questions at all about this, drop me an email at askdonnak@gmail.com. That comes right to me. And a little bit about what's next, and then I'm going to finish up with the writing prompt for next time. So we have a bigger community book project on its way. I'm putting the finishing touches on the information for this. This is not going to be an in a weekend project. It's going to go over a period of a couple of months with the idea that we will be publishing at the end of this year, beginning of next year. So it'll be an inspirational book for 2020. The participants in this book are going to receive more feedback from me. We're going to polish things up. I'm going to have a higher standard of excellence. Dr. Donnelly also used to say, all I want from you is brilliance. And so in working together, that's what we're aiming for, some of those brilliant sentences, brilliant essays for this book. There'll be different levels of participation. You can come in just as an observer, or you can come in as a full participant. And full participants will be available for, will be eligible for awards and other fun prizes and things like that. Finally, if you're interested in doing this on a bigger level for yourself with more writing, I do have a 12-week mastermind that I'm starting. This is my Cherry Tree Mastermind, and we'll be starting that up soon. If you're interested, send me an email to askdonnak@gmail.com. I'll send you a little video with investment levels and also an application that you can fill out. All right, and finally, wrapping up. I'm just a couple minutes behind, so not too bad for me. The next prompt. Here's the next writing prompt I'm putting out for you, and that is, what is your superpower? How does it manifest? And tell a story about a time you used it to demonstrate how it works. So some people call it your secret sauce. What is it that you do really well and share with others? I'd love to hear about that. I'll just tell you right off the bat, mine is asking questions. I can just sit there and, as a reporter, type, kind of grill somebody in a nice way and just ask them a bunch of questions. So how does that manifest? All the time. Sometimes a little bit to people's chagrin and sometimes to people general liking. So what's your superpower? How does it manifest? And tell a story about a time you used to demonstrate how it works. This is a piece that really asks for a story. So I ask you to tell a story about your superpower. All right? All right, so if you're going to hang out with me a little bit after this, I'm gonna close out the recording, and then I'm going to hang out for a little bit, answer any questions that you have. Until then, this is Donna Kozik. I'm the founder of MyBigBusinessCard.com, creator and leader of the original Red Book in a Weekend program, and we've been talking about Give Me 200 Words. Congratulations to Wispy Chris. That is just a wonderful, wonderful piece. Take care. Have a great week of writing, and I will see you in the bookstore.